Hi everyone, it's Maya from Project B. Today I'm really excited to introduce you to the B Agent platform. I'll give you a high level overview of all the components and then I'll demonstrate a couple of things hands-on, so stay tuned for that. So starting with the B Agent platform, it's an open source platform for building powerful agentic workflows with leading open source models. And the key word here is open source models, which I'll talk a bit more about later. There's a few components to this platform. First, starting with the lowest level components, the framework. It allows you to build and customize agents for your own needs. Then you have the API, which allows you to deploy and orchestrate agents. And then finally, we have a web app that allows you to build agents in a low no-code interface. So what is interesting here is that we have one open source platform that caters to different user needs. So starting with the framework that caters to agent developers and people who want to customize their agent setup. The APIs for system integrators and app developers that want to take an agent and infuse it into a workflow or an application that already exists. And then finally, we have the web app. Initially, we designed the web app to be useful for everyday builders that may or may not have knowledge of how LLMs work and agents work. But interestingly enough, developers gave us raving reviews about it. And actually, like a visual interface is so critical to the development and iteration on agents. And I'll showcase that hands-on in a bit. So starting with the framework, some of the key components here include that it's optimized for open source models. Out of the box, we are optimized against several of the Llama variants and Granite, and then there's more models that we're adding. We're doing some of the prompt engineering effort to offer a solid foundation for you to build on top of. That doesn't mean that we're not compatible with some of the frontier models. In fact, we've tested that and they work great, but our focus and attention is going towards making open source models compatible with our framework and work great out of the box. The second thing I want to highlight is our observability capabilities. Observability is so critical when you want to build agents in production. That data that you're able to gather and the ability to see the interim steps, what goes wrong, is so critical to mine and review in order to re-optimize your agent setup. So we offer the best-in-class observability that you could possibly get with an Apache 2.0 license, and I'll be demonstrating that as well. And then finally, we have a lot of great production grade controls baked into the framework. So those have to do with caching, error handling, serialization, and those are things that we've found useful for our own needs, building a production grade system on top of B. And we hope that you will find them useful as well. Next slide provides a deeper overview. The framework is TypeScript native. We're working on bringing a Python native version as well. You have all the core building blocks that you would think you would need when building an agent. So you would have different out-of-the-box agents you can build on top of, following the React pattern. We have out-of-the-box tools and then easy abstractions for you to create your own tools. In terms of LLMs, you can connect to different inference providers, and then we have drivers that allow you to follow a structured output, prompt templates, different memory handling techniques. On the visibility side, you are able to customize what events you want to emit and then what events you want to log. So you can customize this completely for your use case. And then in terms of safety, you can run all of the LLM generated code in a safe container. And I'll demonstrate that hands-on as well. And then finally, I mentioned that as well, some of the controllability and persistence that we offer. So different caching techniques. You're able to pause the state of your agent and resume it. So that is all possible serialization. And then we have advanced error handling techniques. So that wraps it up for the framework side. On the API side, we have a OpenAI compatible API. And this allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to instantiate your agents, manage multi-turn conversations as threads. For each thread, you're able to manage the messages, and then the runs are these interim steps that are happening. This is compatible with files and vector stores, so you could do RAG with it. And then there's advanced features in terms of organization and project management. And there's also really neat extensions here. So that's really cool is you can easily create a custom tool as a Python function. So I will be demonstrating that. You can bring open API tools, sorry, typo there, and then tracing capabilities. The UI, what is really useful here is this left-right setup that allows you to kind of type something on the left side, see what happens on the right side. Oh, actually I want it to be underlined, go update that on the left side. And this is quite neat, so we'll showcase that. And then just to wrap up this section, this is how this all comes together. We're working on this vision of a beehive that not only you can work in a single agent world, but you can orchestrate all of that using the platform that we're offering. Let's dive in hands-on from here. We're in the B.org GitHub page right now, and I'm gonna first click on the B Agent Framework, which is the low-level framework that allows you to build customizable agents. So going down here, you'll see all of the great features that we offer out of the box. I'd actually recommend you check out our docs. We're working on a new and updated version, but this is a great way to go over all of the different modules and capabilities that the agent framework offers out of the box. I just want to get started with on the LLM side, just highlight that we're compatible with different inference providers. So if you want to run your agents locally, you could use Ollama. And then if you want to use a hosted inference API, you have the choice between AWS, Vertex, watsonx, and then there's more to come. If you're using one of the long tail providers, you should be able to get that going with our LangChain adapter. Another thing I wanted to highlight is the tools that we have. So we have a number of built-in tools that we've optimized to run with our agents. Probably the most popular tool is the Python tool, which allows you to run custom code using our code interpreter. And this is our most popular tool just because of the versatility that code writing offers you. And I'll be showcasing that in a bit. And then some of our other popular tools relate to web search. So that would be Google search or DuckDuckGo. And then we have other integrations like Elasticsearch and Milvus, which allows you to do something like RAG and chat with your database. And then we also have a dynamic tool. This basically gives you the building blocks to create a custom tool of your choice. And all of these tools are in TypeScript. However, there is a way to get tools in Python to work here, and I'll be demonstrating that in just a second. So some of the other capabilities I mentioned, like memory and caching, are all detailed here. Highly recommend checking those out. And then going back to our repo. So actually the best way to get started with the B Agent framework is to actually use our starter template. So this template offers a couple of scripts out of the box that make it easy to set up your project. It also has one that connects with the code interpreter and the observability components. All you need to get started is to have Node.js already installed. Optionally, it would be great to have something like Docker or Rancher that would allow you to run the code interpreter, and then you would need to set up your inference provider. Getting started is quite easy. You just clone the repo, go through these steps, and then I'll show you all of this in terminal next. I already cloned the framework starter repo, and then we can see here we have a couple of scripts out of the box. The first script we're going to get started with is this one called Agent. So we can see here that it's using the B agent, which is a React style agent. The memory is set to token memory. That means it's going to keep a context window. It's going to optimize for the existing context window of the model that I'm using. I'm using here Llama 3.2 70B. And then we have two tools that are offered out of the box that are included in the agent setup. So a weather tool called OpenMedio, and then a Wikipedia tool. There's some advanced configurations here that allows us to put limits on the number of loops that the agent can do, how many times it can retry each step. And then finally, we have some scripts here that allow us to control what data is being emitted and how we handle our errors. So let's get started with this. Let's start with a simple script, and then I'm just gonna make sure that the LLM is up and running. So I just said hello B. And then interestingly enough, I can see the interior thought, the user's greeting me. I should respond with a friendly greeting, and then I get my answer. So let's do something a bit more complicated. So I am in Wilmington, North Carolina until Monday. What would be the best date time to have an outdoor family picnic? And let's see what this gives me. Okay, so we can see that the first intermediate thought was to call the weather tool. So look at the weather forecast to determine the best date. Then the agent successfully recognized it needed to use OpenMedio. It populated all the right input parameters to retrieve the weather. And then we got an output. And then based on how it interpreted it, said, based on the weather forecast, it seems that the best day for an outdoor family picnic in Wilmington would be Saturday. That tells me about the temperature. It's recommended to plan picnic during late morning or early afternoon. Okay, great, that's fantastic. Let's try something that uses another tool. So maybe I want to ask, what landmarks should I see in Wilmington? And see, Okay, so now it recognized that it needed to use the Wikipedia tool. So now it's doing that API call, fetching back the results. So it seemed to do another loop to narrow down the search. And then here I got a list of things that I might want to prioritize seeing while I'm here. Cool, so we kind of ran over what this script can do. You can also use this as a starting point to customize what tools you want to use. I do want to showcase how to get your agent to write code and do that in a safe way. So first thing I want to try out is, let's get it to do a calculation exercise. So calculate something like, I don't know, big numbers times another big number, and let's get it to do that. And then, yeah, had a typo. Okay, so the agent told me I'm not capable of performing complex calculations. I can help with other tasks. And that's because we don't have a Python tool configured in the script. We do have a Python tool configured in this one. So you could see that set up with the Python tool, and then the code interpreter is set up. So in order to run all of the LLM generated code in the code interpreter, I have to start a container where that code is going to run. So that's easy as running this command, and then that's like spinning up the container. And then I should be able to rerun the same query using this. Cool, it's just gonna take a couple of seconds. And then that was ready. So I'm gonna go back to the script and then update it to run in the code interpreter. Cool. So what it did is that it transformed my calculation request into Python. And then that is as simple as saying print these two numbers, and then I get the successful result. One interesting thing about the ability to run Python code is you can define tools in Python. Here we have an example of that. This is a very simple tool that interfaces with this URL, and then it's able to generate riddles. So that it's not generating riddles based on the model's knowledge, it's specifically using what's already exists here. So it's as simple as defining the tool as a function, providing a doc string that provides a clear indication of what this is and like what are the input and output parameters. And I can test that out right here. So I can say, generate a riddle. And then what it's going to do is that it's going to use the tool that it has access to instead of just coming up with one of its own. And I really like this capability because you can nudge the agent when to use the tools you want it to use instead of relying on its own knowledge. And then this is a really great way to prototype tools and get running with them. Okay, so that was a whirlwind overview of what you can do with the framework. These are just introductory capabilities, but there's so much more you can build on them. So for this final portion of the demo, I'll showcase to you how you can use the web app in order to quickly iterate on your agent setup. The best way to get started here is to head to the bstack, clone the repo, and then go through the setup command right here. It should be quite seamless to get started. So this repo allows you to get everything up and running in order to make the most advantage of the web app. We'll be bringing a stripped down version of it soon, but for now, I want to showcase to you how you can make the most out of it. So let's head over right here to our interface. And there's a couple of great features here. So you have the concept of projects and workspaces. You can share your work with others. And then you have session management, and you can easily toggle between the different agents you have. One of the agents that I've created for my own use that is actually quite useful is this custom tool builder. So I called out earlier that the idea of having Python functions as custom tools is really powerful and allows you to prototype very quickly. So this is an agent that is set up with some instructions on how to create tools with the right doc string, with the right documentation. And let me showcase one. Something that I like to do is stay on top of the project health of our repo. Are we getting the right amount of traction? Are we getting the right amount of contributions and so on? So I wanted to create a tool that can interface with GitHub and pull the stats that I need. And voila, it wrote it right here. And then I can quickly even test it in the same agent. So I can say, test this with the, okay. So it recognized that it can run the tool that it just created, and it returned to me the results. Highly advise setting this up. I think we'll be also providing this out of the box soon. Next, I want to showcase to you how to create your own custom bee. And we use bee to call our agents. So something that I have to do quite often is go through research papers to stay up to date with what's happening in the field of AI. So I'm creating an archive expert bee. And then here you can choose from cute icons and colors in order to distinguish it. Optionally, you can provide a user-facing description that can tell your users what this agent does. And the most important section here is the role. So these are the specific instructions that goes to the agent, and the more precise you can be, the better results you can have. Typically what I do is I start simple and then see how I need to iterate from here. So I'm gonna say you are archive expert bee. You help users stay on top of the latest research and insights to their area of interest. I want to add a starter question that I can use to like test my setup. So I want to say, update me on the latest ideas on AI agents. Okay, so I'm going to click add. And then in terms of tools, so I demonstrated earlier, you can add a tool as a Python function. So you could just copy that over from the other tool. Luckily here, we already have a pre-configured tool that interfaces with Archive. So that's as simple as toggling that on. I'm going to remove the other tools. Going to keep the Python interpreter because that can be useful. Going to save my setup. And then I can quickly test that here and see if there's any updates I need to do to my setup. Cool. So that quickly pulled a number of papers, and then for each paper it summarized the insight for it. Something that I do like to do is still go back to the initial paper, so I want to add that as a feature. For each paper mentioned, include a clickable link. Okay, so that was a quick update. Gonna save that, clear. Let me rerun this right now. Now I have links that I can get to. So you can see that left-right setup is so useful because sometimes you don't know how the agent should behave until you test it out. And that makes it really easy to toggle back and forth. Okay, so that was a quick demo on how to create your own agent. Finally, I want to showcase to you an advanced use case. So this is a data analyst bee. It took a couple of minutes to prompt engineer this to get it to work in the right way, and it only has one tool, the Python interpreter. I'm gonna bring in here a bill of materials file, and I'm gonna ask it to create a management report based on our use of manufacturers on this project. Include charts and appropriate management recommendations. So we're seeing some of the interim steps flash here. It recognized that it can use the Python code interpreter to do some quick analysis on the data. So that's happening right here. It ran into an error because sometimes there's a mismatch between the word that we use as users and what is the actual word used in the file. So it's ran a quick update to find the correct column name. And then quick statistics. I got a chart of the use of different manufacturers. Okay, maybe I need to go update that chart. I got a few recommendations based on this. And this is a quick start. We're working on bringing more complex data analysis capabilities, but this showcases the power of what a single agent can do. So overall, I hope that you found this useful. Before we drop off here, there's two things I want to close on. So first, this is still an alpha that is coming from Project Bee. We're iterating super fast based on user feedback. So if this is something that looks interesting to you and you want to give it a try and see something that's missing or a bug, please do report that. We also keep public discussions to discuss new features, and we're open to ideas and contributions. And that brings us to the second part. We're really committed for this project to be open source and to remain under an Apache 2.0 license. And if this is something that interests you and you want to collaborate or contribute to, please do reach out, and we're going to be bringing a Discord channel very, very soon. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe for more. Thanks.